I'm done gatekeeping. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you my 4 step framework, which I use till date to manifest anything and everything into my life. Whether it's romantically, physically, financially, mentally, spiritually, it does not matter. It works every single time. For all of you who don't know me, my name is Veer Gidwani. I'm a manifestation coach, and through my program, I help people all over the world make manifestation a way of life and manifest exactly what they want. Now, before wasting any time, let's get right into it. The first step of this mental framework that you have to adopt to create real life miracles is by understanding that repetition wires identity, hesitation wires doubt. In order to manifest anything in our life, you have to first understand how do we actually manifest things, because whether we like it or not, we are always manifesting. We manifest through what our personality is, because break down the word for yourself, you will find personal reality. How is our personality actually constructed? Let's reverse mental map this. You have thought which you practice again and again, which then turn to beliefs. You hold on to the belief for a certain period of time, you then believe enough to take action. You take repeated actions, and then you have habit loops. You have these habits which then craft your entire personality. However, in order to create a brand new reality, you have to take action. But 99% of people are under the impression that they can do mindless methods and techniques without taking any real life action. And that's why they don't get results. Our brain has a basal ganglia responsible for habitual loops. So every single time that you are trying to take an action in your current reality which does not align with your old identity, you are going to face an immense amount of resistance, which is why 99% of people hesitate. But every single time that you are hesitating, you are signaling to your subconscious mind that you are only in love with the idea of the material desire and not the lifestyle that comes with it. However, if you can look at your entire situation from a bird's eye point of view, then your resistant patterns towards actually attracting that into your life is drastically going to reduce, because now you are not going to be under the impression that I have to be happy or excited 24/7 for my desire to come in. So, the question that you want to be asking yourself, how will my life look 3 months after I actually get this desire? Because people are under the impression that I have to be in that end state, but it's impossible to sustain that end state, which is why you get anxious the moment you get negative. But I'm telling you, if you can maintain that level of peace and stability, which you will actually be in 3 months after you get your desire, that is the vibration that you have to hold on to. When you hold on to that vibration, your subconscious mind will give you inspired actions. When you act in accordance with those inspired actions, you will face resistance. But that is exactly what you have to act against, because when you act in accordance with your resistant patterns and you break them, you are then signaling to your brain's basal ganglia responsible for habitual loops to then convey the message to your dorsolateral striatum. Because when your dorsolateral striatum has the awareness that you are actually practicing through conscious willpower to create a brand new reality for yourself, then your prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making in your brain, is now going to change that willpower of making a decision into your new default. And the more action you take in your current reality, which is in accordance with your future identity, the future identity is something which you're constructing right now. And as a byproduct, your electromagnetic field, which is your point of attraction, can very easily attract that future event into the present moment. But if you hesitate, that is exactly what you're going to normalize in your brain. Think about it in a very simple point of view. If there is a girl or a guy who wants to ask out, let's say a girl, the more he thinks about approaching her, the more problems and the more forms of resistance that his brain is going to come up with. But the moment he take action, he's going to get clarity whether she is into him or whether she is not into him. But 99% of people are actually afraid of clarity because they feel like they can overthink themselves and then come to a certain level of a solution which is going to make them happy for a certain period of time until the 3D reality hits them back, and then they go back to day one. But if you really want to make this a way of life, the first step is to understand what your current habit loops are and what the forms of resistance towards adapting towards your future identity in the present are. You relentlessly act towards that, and then your brain can shift its default from someone who does not receive to someone who effortlessly receives, because you have taken action. After taking action, you have to remember the second mental framework, and that is, detachment does not mean losing interest in your desires. It means getting rid of every form of resistance so that that desire can come to you. A lot of people are under the impression that I have to create the path for my desire to come into my life, and then I have to take action towards that path, and then I will get it. But the biggest mistake that you are making in this situation is that you are quite literally interfering with quantum intelligence and its ways for bringing that desire to you, because your job has never been to construct the path. Your job is to clear the atmosphere around you for that path to reveal itself to you. But the only reason you can't help but overthink about the perfect path is because it satisfies your logical brain. But the logical information that you have is all from records of your past experiences. So if what you're trying to manifest is something that you've never manifested before, it is physically impossible to do that with logic. And when you keep this in mind and you then entertain this question, what is the best case scenario, even if the worst case scenario plays out, and you actually do your best to entertain that thought, then you are completely taking fear out of the equation. When fear is out of the equation, your brain's amygdala, which is responsible for your threat detector, is no longer going to detect any threat in relation to the actions that you are already taking in accordance with your new identity. And the lesser the forms of resistance becomes, because now you are even fine with the worst case scenario, and you genuinely have to be fine with that. That is precisely when your brain's prefrontal cortex, which is your decision maker, can take even more aligned action in accordance with the identity which you are already acting in accordance with. Now, the third mental framework that you have to keep in mind is that your environment programs you more than your intentions do. So, no matter what your intention is, if the environment that you are consistently surrounding yourself with is more in accordance with your previous identity, you are making it a billion times more difficult for you to create that reality into your current life. Why is that? Because think of yourself as a drug addict. If you are a drug addict trying to quit drugs, but you have drugs stored in your drawer, do you feel like it's going to be easier for you to quit? Or do you feel like it's going to be easier if you just wash down all of those drugs? As simple as that. And I'll give you proof as to how much your environment actually affects you. Have you ever entered this room in your house and you enter that room and you realize, I forgot what I came in over here for? We've all been there. Why have we been there? Because the environment that we are in forces the Hebbian's law to work in accordance with our brain, which means if we enter a certain environment, our brain is conditioned to fire and wire the same set of neural networks that we are associated with in relation to the emotional attachment to that area. For example, if I go back to my school, I am suddenly going to remember a lot of more names and a lot of more faces and a lot of more teachers because I'm going there after a certain period of time, and the dormant synaptic connections that I had in my brain in relation to school is going to get activated. So the same situation in your life, if you're trying to manifest a specific person and your current problem is that you can't stop overthinking about them, or you can't control yourself but check their Instagram stories repeatedly, what you have to do very clearly over here is not block them out of agitation. You can either delete the Instagram app, you can either unfollow them, or you can do anything in your life to get rid of their presence in your life. Because right now, the fear that you are feeling of getting rid of their presence is the fear that you are having of losing your old identity, and the only memory that you have with them is in relation to your old identity. But the question in place is that, do you really want to manifest the version of them which left you, or do you want to manifest a new version of them? If you want to manifest a new version of them, you have to get rid of the old you, because it is the old you which caused the breakup in the first place. And if you want to create and attract a new version of them, you have to first take relentless action towards creating a new version of you, which cannot happen if you do not detach from the old version of yourself. And if you don't change your environment and create new spaces where your new identity would actually spend time in, it's going to be very, very difficult. But the moment you take the first step towards doing that, you are already moving in accordance with your higher self, which is a new identity, and the proof for your desires to come in happens faster than ever. The fourth mental framework is extremely important, and that is your subconscious mind does not care about what you want, it only and only cares about keeping you safe. Why does your subconscious mind only care about keeping you safe? Because billions of years ago, when the only reason to survive was you either kill that animal and you eat it, or that animal kills you and it eats you. That is how all of our ancestors lived. Because of that, when one day our ancestors were hungry because a man's got to eat, and then they went out hunting, which was the primal instinct of existence at that time, and they did not find They did not find any animals to eat in the regular locations. And then they were forced to go into locations just for the sake of getting some food, but because they had to. When they went into those locations, that is precisely when they started to feel anxiety. They started to feel their heart feeling different. They didn't have words for it back then, but they felt all of these emotions simply because they were stepping into the unknown. Fast forward generations later today, we still feel extremely uncomfortable every time we go into unknown situations, even though today you're not going to get eaten by an animal because you're in the wrong location, but we still have the primal instinct of being fearful of doing something unknown. And when you're in your manifestation journey, crafting your new identity from the first mental framework to right now, it is going to feel uncomfortable. But that is the exact discomfort that you have to embrace, because when you can see discomfort as an opportunity to show up as the highest version of yourself instead of giving into it and becoming the old version of yourself just because it's more familiar, that is exactly when you win. You don't win when your manifestation comes in. You win every single day. You decide to show up as the highest version of yourself who's no longer fearful of being in this situation. Because only when you can be in this situation for a sustained period of time, only when you can practice the new identity for a sustained period of time, his subconscious mind is going to feel safe in that situation, because no matter what the situation is, if you are there for a certain period of time, your subconscious mind will adapt to it. So if I pick up a kid and I put him in a terrorist camp. This is the weirdest example, but think about it. He's going to feel weird at first. But if he's over there for 2 years straight, he's going to get influenced into believing that this is the new normal. Like, I'm going to do it come what may. And then that becomes his identity. So if you want to create a new identity for yourself, you have to put yourself in such uncomfortable situations that it is impossible for you to not grow. And the more actions that you can take towards the exact things that you feel most resistance towards, you are actually opening yourself to so many new opportunities, because now you're doing everything in your power to disassociate from your old identity, which is making the new identity even more prominent. And the more prominent this becomes, the more you can signal to your subconscious mind that, hey, being this person is safe. And now in this entire journey, your entire attention has been on you and your self-concept and on your identity. And because your attention is on your identity, how you feel is dependent on you, which means any level of anxiety, fear, or whatever it is cannot enter the picture, because now your internal state is dependent on your actions, not on anything that is happening outside of you. And when you live in accordance with this, I promise to you, for you to manifest, it becomes like a cakewalk. That's it for this video. If you wish to personally work with me, the link is in the description. It is also live in my Instagram bio. But this is it for this video. Lots of love, best of luck, and keep shining. And I will see you very soon in the next one.